Hello and welcome back to the La Project, a facetious podcast where we talk about world news and social events, maybe. So over the last week, by the way, I'm your host Han Royani.
In case you guys forgot, I'm the co-host BJ. What's up?
We've done this for like 20 plus episodes.
No, actually, we just did 30 last week.
Oh yeah, we just did
we just
30
last
episodes.
week.
Yeah.
So
30 episodes
this
and
is 31.
and I still forget to like mention my name in the
It's
start.
okay though. I don't think it's forget. I think you think the viewers got used to your face.
Yeah, maybe feel like I'm famous or
Like
whatever.
Joe Rogan doesn't introduce himself at the
Oh
start
yeah,
of every
that's right.
episode,
That's right. Yeah. I don't need to introduce myself.
I still do. What's up, BJ?
Anyway, a lot of things have happened over the last week. Some of the topics that we're about to talk today, we have somewhat talked about last week. So we talked a little bit.
But it's still going on this week.
It's still going on. It's still going on. Like some of the things we talked about last week was like the LA protest, the whole ICE.
Are those
thing.
still going on?
I think that's still going on. That's still going on.
But there's not getting much news. Right?
Yeah, I think people are getting bored of that. Maybe it's like,
Probably.
it's just riots and protests.
Probably the California people are getting lazy of looting. They're like, we'll give you guys another week break.
Yeah,
to stay at
but
home.
crazy things are still happening around the world. Like for example, in the US, there's
Gaza still happening.
Gaza is still happening.
Even
but,
while the Iran is going on.
Yeah. And talking about Iran, the biggest news that probably came out of the world over the last week was the fact that Israel and Iran has sort of been bombing each other over the last roughly 2 weeks, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I think it's over the last 12 days, 13 days.
12 days. And like so many civilians have been killed, from both sides. Maybe more towards the Iranians. And apparently the United States of America, they have just announced a small ceasefire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's small, but they announced the ceasefire. The President Trump announced a ceasefire, and within like 6 hours later, Iran allegedly bombed Israel after the ceasefire was in effect.
Yeah.
And then
a few hours later,
Israel bombed Iran back.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And about a couple hours ago, before Trump left for the NATO summit in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, while he was on the way to getting on his chopper to get to Air Force One, they were like the media was asking him,
I saw
like,
this.
what's going on? Like, is this real and all that? And Trump was like, is it real? Like, is it really true that the Iranians and the Israelis both violated the ceasefire? And he said yes, they did, and both Iran and Israel does know they're doing.
Yes.
And that's the first time, I think, since 1776, since there was a president in the US, the US has been caught on purpose. The president has been caught on purpose
saying the word,
using the F-bomb.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's never happened before.
And the thing about him, he knew that there were a lot of cameras there.
Oh, like, no, he was answering a question.
Yeah, he was
he wasn't like, it wasn't a hot mic. No, he was answering a question.
But as soon as he said that, like, they don't know they're doing, and then he just left.
He just walked off.
He's pissed.
He's pissed. Like, I mean, think about, it's gonna be weird to imagine this as an analogy, but imagine Trump being the parent in the room.
The parent in the room. Wow.
You imagine that situation. Trump is the parent and Israel and Iran are the kids fighting. I've been dealing with that basically every day over the past 2-3 weeks.
So your kids are Israel and Iran, basically.
They can be whatever they want, once the elder one gets home from school and But that's a different story. I'm not gonna get into that.
Yeah, but okay, speaking about Trump, and I mean, like, obviously Israel strike first, and then Iran retaliated, and they have been bombing each other over the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
So speaking about Trump, like, he is somewhat involved, maybe not directly.
Oh, no, he is involved.
Yeah.
Like, he the Americans bombed the 3 nuclear enrichment sites
Oh
of
yeah,
Iran.
that's right. That's right.
This was about, I think, 3 days ago. And one of them was Isfahan. The other one was the Fordo mountain, like underground uranium enrichment facility that was built basically under a mountain
In Iran.
in Iran.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other one was, I think, Natanz. I think was the other one that was also bombed by the US. So those bombs, they use this thing called the MOPS. I don't remember what it stands for, but basically, or is the official name is the GBU 57S, which is a bunker buster. It's essentially a bomb that goes through a certain barrier and then explodes behind the barrier. You know, like it detonates, like it has a delayed detonation kind of thing.
Right.
So it causes maximum damage within the target,
Right.
instead of just damaging the walls
Oh, okay. I get it.
or the protection of
So
the target.
so they'll
itself.
like break through the defense, and then once it's inside, and then
Boom.
it blows up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So apparently the US dropped like 400,000 pounds worth of these bunker busters. One is about 30,000 pounds. One
wow.
bunker buster, one
Okay.
rocket. So they supposedly dropped about 400 to 450,000 pounds worth of these bunker busters on the Fordo
Oh, wow.
complex. Yeah.
That is
It's
crazy.
nuts. It's nuts. But I mean, back to the real point here is that with the US doing that, number one, no other military in the world has the capability of using the bunker busters. No other military in the world develops bunker busters, and no other military in the world has the ability to develop the bunker busters as of now. As of now. On top of that, even if they did, they don't have the B-2 stealth bomber, which is the only aircraft in the world that can deliver the payload of
Okay.
the bunker buster.
Okay.
So, it was done, and no other pilots in the world can pilot the B-2 except for the American pilots that were trained.
Right.
You know, so it's American all the way around. There was no, in terms of that attack, which they're calling Operation Midnight Hammer.
Sounds like a cool album.
It's an American operation.
Okay.
It's not an Israeli operation. Even the Americans acknowledge as much. The Israelis acknowledge as much. It's a completely American operation. Just the strikes of the three. So of the three nuclear facilities,
Right.
and as such, there is direct American involvement.
Yeah, I mean, like,
You know?
but Trump.
Like even the planes, the B-2
Okay.
stealth bombers.
Yeah.
I think there were 10 or 11 of them, and they all took off from Missouri, which is right in the US. It didn't take off from like some offshore air or navy base, like in the Pacific Ocean or in the Indian Ocean or anything like that. It was directly from, like, they took off from the US. They made a 38-hour round trip,
Wow.
you know, to bomb Iran, like that. So it's American. It's no doubt about it.
So there was an interview with JD Vance recently where they asked, "Oh, okay, so is the United States are in a war with Iran?" And then he said, "No, we're not in war with Iran. We're just in a war with Iran's nuclear facilities."
Okay, this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
All right, because of what he said. While to the objective independent observer, it might seem like the US is actively at war with Iran. I somewhat share that same sentiment.
Okay.
However, I think the war that everyone is concerned about is boots on the ground, like a proper invasion of US troops moving or Israeli troops moving into Iran, right? So I think that is what people are actually worried about. Nobody's actually worried. Like, it's a bit facetious, I guess, to put it this way, but no one really cares that bombs are dropping on nuclear facilities. People only care if it's dropping on civilians. Am I right?
I mean, if civilians are getting injured or
but
killed in
even
the way,
even the Iranians admit that the nuclear facilities, the three that were hit by US, were emptied out. They wouldn't there were none, not even any radioactive material, like nuclear material in the facilities by the time the US bombed them. So they supposedly from all three facilities, all the raw materials needed to enrich the uranium have been moved out to other secure locations. So if you ask me, like, and even when Iran bombed Al Udeid airbase in Qatar.
Qatar. Oh,
in Qatar,
yeah.
right?
The American base. Yes.
Yeah, the American Air Force base.
Yeah.
Even then, before Iran bombed the base, Iran actually told the US that they were going to do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is the second game that's happening that people don't see. Okay? This is the second level of international warfare.
Okay.
All right? That people don't see, don't understand, and the media, to their discredit, don't like to report. Okay? So no American troops lost their lives or got injured in the attack on Al Udeid
Okay.
airbase, okay?
Because they've been warned.
Because they were warned.
Yeah.
Same goes to the Iranians. They were warned before the US bomb. Okay? So that's very different. That is very, very different compared to
How Israel does it?
Israel
Yeah.
dropping leaflets in Gaza telling everybody to get out because we're going to bomb the civilian area. That's very different. Okay? One is that you're talking about civilians who don't have military training.
That's true.
Who don't have survival training. Where are they going to go? Like that. Okay? Military is a different story. Like, they are expecting war. They are signed up to fight in a war. Correct?
It's part of the job.
It's part of the job. And even then, like, in terms of the game being played by the US, the Israel, and Iran, and the leadership of these countries, is basically sending a message like, why do you think Iran won the US before they struck the airbase?
Because I think somewhat because they don't want to make they don't want to make the United States their enemies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But why do they attack the airbase anyways? And why do Americans let them do it anyways?
Why?
Diplomatic reasons. Because they can go to their populace, the Iranians can go to their populace and tell them, look,
we've retaliated.
We've retaliated. Whatever the Americans say that, oh, we have no casualties, nobody got injured, true or not, Iranians are not going to believe that shit. Iranians are going to believe what the state TV tells them.
Yeah.
You know?
They believe, we just attacked the American base.
Exactly. Yeah. So Iran can say whatever they want locally, domestically. But the truth of the matter is another story. So that's why I say it's a game being played on both sides. It's not just a game. It's not like what people are saying where, oh, Israel and the US are aggressors. Yes, they are. But to assume that Iran are blameless, one, and to assume that Iran are not as good at playing the game as these other parties are, is also false. Because Iran has been there. You think about it, okay? Iran has been there. The leadership of Iran, at least, the current Iranian regime, the mullahs, they've been there since 1979, right? On top of being there since 1979, without there being a change in the regime, the leadership might have changed, but the core tenets of the regime are still the same until today. Death to America, death to Israel, right? Despite being there since 1979, and despite most of the Western superpowers being against them, on top of that, the only, probably what you can call a superpower, the closest thing to a superpower in the Middle East, Israel, also hates them. Been trying to remove them, the regime, but they're still there. You know what I mean? So that goes to show how powerful they actually are.
Iran is actually very capable.
Yes, very capable.
Yeah.
Very capable. So to assume this is not a Gaza-Israel issue.
No.
Okay, even if the US gets involved to a more serious extent.
I would say the Gaza-Israel issue is more like a genocide. This is more like a war.
Yeah, this is conflict.
Yeah.
It's an actual conflict. It's an actual war. So there are games being played on multiple levels. Like on top of this, on top of the fact that they are attacking each other's vacant facilities because they've been warning each other. On top of that, there's also the espionage level, where Iranian spies are working against American spies, are working against Israeli spies, and there's a whole different plane of existence of warfare. You know?
Yeah.
On top of that is the diplomatic channel, where there's back channels happening between Iranian parliament members and
Israel,
US congressmen and members of Israeli parliament as well. So trying to broker peace. So there's multiple levels of warfare, negotiations, diplomacy happening while they're still attacking each other.
Yeah.
You know? So in this case, yes, it's that is happening, and there have been Israelis that have been injured, but I don't think any casualties have happened on the Israeli side. Or at least
There are some casualties,
some
but not
casualties.
as many as the ones in Iran.
Yeah. So it is what it is. I mean, war is nasty, is always nasty.
Yeah.
But the games are being played on both sides, and
Yeah.
I, for one, especially when it comes to this whole Iran thing, I've always been on the side that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons
Why not?
because they are going to use it.
I mean, like a lot of other countries have nuclear
But they
weapons.
weren't
too.
going to use it. None of these countries would ever use it. The US would never use it.
What makes you think Iran is going to use it?
Because Iran would use it to create terror, which they've been doing. See,
Okay.
that's the thing. That's the sentiment that I don't like. Not say I don't like, but that I disagree with when it comes to the current narrative about this whole Iran, Israel, US thing. And it's that Iran should be allowed to develop their own nuclear weapons and all that. I'm like, no. They shouldn't. They've been sponsoring terrorism since the 80s. They've blown up planes. They've blown up. They've caused mass casualties. Yes.
So
And
did America.
Agreed. But the US, let's put it this way: if the Iranians had the capability of using a nuclear bomb, they would use it in order to create the terror that they want to create.
Okay.
Because their whole idea is, and these are not the Saudis who supposedly secretly have their own nuclear program as well. You know, the Iranians are the richest or the richest, wealthiest country in the Gulf in the Middle East when it comes to oil. You know, and they do not need to be developing nuclear weapons or even a civilian nuclear program is unnecessary for them because of how much oil that they have.
No,
that
but
they can use.
they have been a part of the nuclear
NPT, non-proliferation treaty.
Yeah. So,
but that didn't change the fact that they did enrich the uranium to 60%.
They did. They have all the necessary materials that they needed in order to build bombs or whatever. But while they do have all these facilities, all this technology, they haven't created a single bomb yet because they have been a part of the, what do you call it, NPT.
Yeah, non-proliferation treaty.
And they have been a part of the NPT. But Israel, on the other hand, they are not part of the NPT. But then they are also like creating their own nuclear weapons.
Because they're not part of the NPT.
Yeah.
So they're not governed by the NPT. You get it?
Okay, but there should be like law or legislation to basically
You're talking about
cap
international law,
the
right?
international law.
Okay, who's
So-
going to enforce that?
Mm.
We go back to that story.
Mm.
So like, just having a law doesn't solve any situation.
That's true.
Because you need someone to enforce the law. Without police, the law in Malaysia doesn't mean anything. The law in any country doesn't mean anything without domestic policemen.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So we talked about what has been going on with Iran, Israel, and the Americas. So basically, let's get back to the point where how did this all start? Like I know this has been like bubbling up for maybe decades, but why did Israel eventually just shot Iran out of nowhere when over the last 20 years or so, Benjamin Netanyahu, he has said that, Iran has been building weapons. Yeah,
Why did Israel do that
why
first strike
did
12 days ago?
yes.
Oh, that's simple, because of Gaza. No one's talking about Gaza anymore, are they?
No?
Exactly.
Wow. So they would rather just start another war,
Because at
spending
least a war
millions of
against Iran
dollars.
is justified compared to a
No,
genocide
but
against Gaza.
this is a war that they started.
No, I know, I
Yeah.
know. But forget about start, finish, all that. Forget about all that for a while, okay? Right now, what's happening? No one's talking about Gaza anymore. Over the last 12 days, who's been talking about Gaza? Absolutely no one. Even the people that have been reposting about this thing about Israel, that thing about Israel, are all posting about Iran now. You know? They're not talking about Gaza anymore.
Wow. So that's the game plan. That's crazy.
I don't know if that is for sure, but I'm saying that's a happy, especially if you're on from the Israeli perspective of things. That's a very happy coincidence, no? That no one's talking about Gaza anymore and what you're doing to the Gazans, and suddenly people all over the media are justifying for the Israelis why they should do this.
Why they should bomb Iran?
Exactly. Yeah.
I would argue.
I mean, the media is in full propaganda mode.
Yeah,
in the US
that's true.
especially.
That's true.
Yeah.
The legacy media they call it.
Like I said, I don't agree that I agree that Iran should never have nuclear weapons. They've been sponsoring terrorism since the 80s. Okay, they are bad people. The mullahs, the regime,
not the people.
Not the people of Iran. No, of course
Iran.
not.
Okay,
but the regime. Okay, they've been sponsoring terrorism.
Okay.
They meet Hamas leadership billionaires. They meet Houthi leadership billionaires.
Okay.
But the people that are in Yemen, that are in Gaza, are still suffering. You know, even despite the billions of dollars that Iran has been able to give to these organizations.
Sure.
You know, and like I said, that to me proves to me that if they had the capability of using a nuclear bomb, they would, simply because they would have it, and it would be like
warning for
not even a warning, like a weapon of last resort. You know, like, okay, we've done everything else, they still don't want to leave us alone, we'll bomb them.
No, but that's the thing. Like, why Israel, knowing that Iran has all these equipment, all these facilities, they, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, they are so close to creating a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
Then why would they want to start bombing them, knowing that they might have nuclear capabilities? Like, why would Israel want to risk that, knowing that, okay, these people might have nuclear power. All right, let's bomb them.
Because they don't want them to have nuclear power.
Okay, and I also think it's because the US is behind Israel. They're like, okay, you know what? We've done all these things to Gazans and no one gives a so maybe we can start doing this to the Iranians.
I don't think it's a matter of just bombing for the sake of bombing.
No, I'm sure there are a lot of reasons.
If you ask me why is getting so much favorable press that the Israelis and the US are doing it, it's because of the Iranian regime, the leadership in Iran. You know, they have been screaming at the tops of their lungs since they've gone into power, since the Ayatollah came back in 1979. They've been saying death to America, death to Israel.
For the mullahs.
The mullahs have been saying it.
Yeah.
Not just the mullahs. Some Iranian, some sections of the Iranian populace have been saying it as well. You know, Iranian people have been saying that, chanting that in protest. So it's a convoluted mess. I mean, they are a country of 92 million people. That's 3 times more than we do.
Malaysia,
we have in Malaysia.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like so. And the mullahs, they don't even have the majority. They rule by force.
It's like a military government.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that they are a military government, but they do rule by force domestically.
Oh yeah, I get that. They have like implemented a lot of rules that not a lot of Iranians
and
agree
enforced
with.
too. And enforced too. Yeah. Which is screwed up. But even then, it's not our business to interfere.
Yeah, but even then, let's say these people, the way they run things are probably for us is a bit like what do you call it?
No,
maybe it's not normal for us. Maybe it's not normal for us.
It's deviant.
Okay,
it is deviant. They are evil.
Okay, you're talking about the
Iranian regime is
okay,
and the people who chant death to America, death to anyone are evil.
Yeah.
That is the baseline for me. You know, you don't wish death on anyone. I don't wish death on anyone, no matter how much I hate them. You know, In fact, if I hate someone, I hope their life becomes a living hell, rather than them dying and having an easy out. So no,
That's
like
true.
where I stand on this is simple. Like women and children dying, I'm not for that at all.
Yeah, of course.
But that regime, while I think it's that people have been saying that Israel and the US are doing this in the guise of upholding feminism and Western cultures and
that one I do.
all that.
Yeah.
That's they're doing it because they don't like the Iranians. Okay, full stop.
No, when they say
And
that,
the Iranians do it because they don't like the Israelis and the Americans. Full stop. Which one is more evil, or which evil are you willing to live with more?
Yeah.
100% for me is the Americans, rather than the Iranians taking over and completing their global intifada,
No,
which
but
is crazy.
That's the thing. Americans have already taken over the world.
And
basically.
they don't how do you say,
They don't
impose
go around
upon you your
give threats.
religion.
Yeah.
The thing about the Americans is why, because people like to talk like American culture is this and that. Americans have no culture. Asia is becoming too westernized and all that. Fine, but the one thing that the American, if you strip back all of the how do you say, all of the rogue actors that function in like backwater countries and try to influence this, influence that. If you strip all that back, the main reason what America wants to preach to the world is freedom. Make your own freedom of choices. Live a free life. Live in a free world. While that has become convoluted because there are certain actors within America, within Israel, within the global order, individual actors. I'm not talking about countries, but individual people like George Soros, and try to affect their interest with their money, with their influence.
The Rothschilds.
People like that. And these are the people that have muddied the waters. But the core tenet of what America exports is freedom. And that freedom is what made America so great for 400 years. It's not anymore.
It's not
as great as it used to be because they lost track of that. They let these figures, these George Soros, Rothschilds of the world, co-opt their mission and twist and turn it into their own personal agenda, which is not what it's supposed to be. So, like I said, on balance, I'd rather be ruled over by the Americans than the Iranians do it.
Okay, sure. I get,
like even
I get
our own government would not want to be run by how the Iranians are running. They've already declared the Shia as deviant.
Okay, but recently...
That is official Malaysian government policy.
Yeah, but recently Anwar Ibrahim just gave a call to one of Iranian's leaders and Anwar Ibrahim...
No, government. Yeah.
Government.
That's the government thing. Like he's not the leader of Islam in Malaysia. The leader of Islam in Malaysia is the Agong.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, so Anwar is the leader of the government. So he's talking on the government to government basis. But in terms of whether we would have Iranian ideals
obviously
governing
not,
us,
because
we wouldn't want that.
No, because Malaysians are mostly, we're all Sunnis. We're not Shia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if the Americans were to come here and be like, okay, we give you all freedom. Take the freedom you want. We'll give you all the aid you want as long as you maintain your democracy as it is right now and you maintain the freedom.
No, but democracy, okay, that's the thing about democracy. Like America likes to show, okay, we have democracy, but at the same time, they also topple governments. They have
no. Agree.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm asking you about. I'm asking about here in Malaysia, right?
Okay.
We already practice democracy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we call it a constitutional monarchy, whatever it is. But it's a democracy. It's a democracy.
Okay.
So
democracy.
We still, like, once we are 18, we can go and we can vote.
Yeah.
Our vote counts.
Yeah.
Per se.
Supposedly.
Yeah. And we somehow, the people of Malaysia, the voting populace have
power.
Have a say.
Yeah.
So, if the Americans were to come here, like, we give you all the money, we just maintain. Maintain what you're doing.
I mean, I wouldn't mind having that option as compared to like
the Iranians coming and being like, yo, you need the whole of Malaysia needs to be under hudud.
Okay, sure. Okay, but as we were talking about, like America can be the solution for this because
Okay.
they possess everything basically, everything they need to stop wars.
Okay.
So what do you think Trump should do at this point? Because he just declared a ceasefire, but we don't know how.
And then it was violated.
It was violated.
Yeah.
It's so fragile. So what else can he do? Like he already said, oh, they don't know what they're doing, whatever, but they're still bombing each other.
There's one thing that he could do in terms of the between him and Israel, and he could cut them off. But he's not going to do that. He's not going to do that.
He's not going to do that.
APEC is not going to allow him to do that. Yeah.
It is the United States of Israel.
So he's not going to do that, and he's not going to cut them off. Maybe up the tariffs on Israel, maybe. But even then, like Israel has done so much. At least in Americans' eyes, Israel over the last 12 days have done so much to support the American cause in terms of dealing with one of America's biggest enemy. Like you could say Iran is probably outwardly at least America's biggest enemy right now. Like outwardly opposing the United States.
Other than Russia, maybe.
Russia is doing the whole Ukraine thing, but they're not at war. Like they're still diplomats of each other's countries in each other's countries. So you can't say I don't think you could attribute it that way. So I would say Iran is the biggest declared threat. You know? And Israel has done a lot in the last 12 days. If you're on the American side, to be like weaken Iran.
The Israelis has done a lot.
So the Americans owe them for that as well. So it's not a thing where it's cut and dry. Forget about the last 12 days is what you have done for me recently. That's not the case.
Okay, right now there's a somewhat of a ceasefire, even though it's fragile. Do you think it's gonna maintain, or do you think it's just gonna be blown up?
I say it's gonna be 30 days.
It's gonna be 30 days
or less. Yeah.
Like before we get
another round of
bombing attacks.
Yeah. I would say 30 days or less. I think 30 days is the maximum would go without another skirmish breaking out. Yeah. But then there's also all these other things, like all these other factions within Iraq.
Okay. Iran.
Within Iraq at the Iraq-Iran border as well. That are also have like smaller rockets and all that they are firing into Israel. You know, that kind of thing. And on top of that, the Iranian parliament, I think last week on Friday it was, or it was either on Friday or Monday that they decided to close down or restrict access into the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay.
Yeah. So Strait of Hormuz is one of the major trade routes, shipping routes in the world. Yeah, they account for roughly
Qatar.
In between Qatar and Iran.
Yeah.
So they basically traffic about 20%.
Oh yeah. I read about this. Yeah. So right now the Iranian government has closed the routes, right?
Yeah.
For the ships to pass through.
It's called that area that Iran controls is called the Strait of Hormuz. So that is a bad thing, I think, globally for everyone, because price of oil goes up, price of everything goes up. Like, that doesn't change.
Yeah. So like before we talked about this ceasefire and like when the re-escalation can be. You said it's going to be about 30 days. I think it's going to be less than that.
Yeah.
But what does it mean for like US foreign policy moving forward? Because you know, like when you said as soon as oil prices go up, everything's going to go up. You know, especially in a world where like America is trying to balance the peace between in the Middle East, in China, in Ukraine. Like how's that gonna how is Trump's role going to be perceived globally, you know, after with this going on? Like people look at this war going on, are people from other countries going to be thinking, oh, Trump is going to be the one that can stop this? Or do you think, oh, Trump is just going to make things worse?
I think that a lot of what you asked, the answer to what the questions that you asked are going to be determined by how long and how effective the ceasefire is. So if the ceasefire lasts like more than a month,
Mm-hmm.
lasts maybe 6 months or whatever the case may be, or maybe that Iran and Israel don't attack each other anymore for the rest of his presidency,
Okay.
he should win the Nobel Peace Prize just for that.
You know, Pakistan nominated Donald Trump
Yeah,
as
because he ended the whole Pakistan-India thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, he did more than just being black.
Huh? What do you mean? He did more than just being black?
Yeah.
Oh.
Now he gets it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, like Barack Obama, like right after his election, just because he was black,
He
was
got
given the Nobel Peace Prize.
We talked about this
We
in
did.
one of the earlier
We did.
episodes.
We did.
Yes.
So, and you could argue that Barack Obama, in terms of warmongering, has done way more
Yeah.
than Donald Trump has.
Okay, he has done way more, but a lot of wars happen during Trump's era because of other individuals or other factors, not because of
you
Trump.
do know that there were more wars started in the Obama era than the Trump era, right?
I do, but some of the worst, the more terrible wars that are happening right now, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, Israel, Iran.
Russia, Ukraine was Joe Biden.
Okay, but it's still going on right now.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, so like, how?
I don't think those are worse. Like, worse in what sense? In terms of casualties? In terms of
casualties,
Ukraine and Russia takes the cake.
Okay.
But in terms because I think there's estimates that it's been like 1 million Ukrainians that have died
really
since the start of the Russian invasion, right? So that's a lot of people.
That's crazy. 1 million people.
There's a lot of people. And
that's like the same amount of people that died in Iraq.
But this is normal for a Russian conflict. If you know history, this is how Russia has waged its wars, and it's that the first few rounds is basically Russia sending as many bodies as they can. You know, because they can. They have like over
Russia is massive.
150 million people.
Yeah.
You know, they have the population to do that, and on top of that, they have the appetite to do that because their people are so used to suffering and so used to being in harsh conditions.
Yeah.
You know, like right now when they have the prosperity they have now with all the money coming into Russia from China and all that, they don't mind like the military going over and sending more bodies to die and all that, because these people that are taken into the military are the hard ones. They're not the ones that live in St. Petersburg or Moscow. They're the people that live in Siberia.
Yeah.
So these are hard people that are not bred anywhere else in the world. You know. But my point is that in terms of the suffering that it has caused, I would say what Obama has done was way worse. Look at what happened to Libya.
Yeah, Libya.
Okay? There are slave markets, as we talked about last week. There are actually open slave markets, like Petaling Street style,
Yeah.
in Tripoli, in the capital of Libya. That's how it is. Look at what has happened to Bashar al-Assad.
Oh yeah.
You know, that was
Syria.
That was something that started in the Obama era and ended in the Joe Biden era. You know, on top of that, you can look at America's relationship with Russia, how bad that has been, and you could argue that devolvement, the breaking down of the relationship between Russia and America, to the point that it caused the Ukraine conflict, was because of the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton, because of how much Hillary Clinton hated the Russians and what she did. Bashar al-Assad was and still is, he lives in Moscow today,
Okay.
a very close ally of the Russians.
Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
but
the
he's
leader
no
of Syria.
longer in
Yeah,
power.
and who removed them? Who removed him? It was the Americans. So all those things broke down, and Hillary Clinton, for example, was one of the people that actually hated Russia. She said about Libya, we came, we saw, we bombed. He died. Ha ha ha. She said that in public.
That. Wow.
So that almost became your president. Like And people are
not
saying,
my president.
like, people have been saying about Trump, like how Trump has done this, has done that, this whole Iran thing, and don't bomb Iran, don't get involved and all that. But what do you think Kamala Harris would have done if she had won? She was
I
signing
don't know.
bombs. Nikki
Yeah, I mean-
Haley was signing bombs.
I mean,
Trump never signed no bombs. And look at you have to look at it like objectively, okay? What happened to ISIS during Trump's first term? They were eradicated.
Okay.
They could never get back up until Joe Biden came back.
Okay.
Okay, Trump got rid of them in a matter of 6 weeks. The whole ISIS caliphate got rid of in 6 weeks. This whole Iran thing, if he did do the surgical strikes, and they did do the surgical strikes, did do the damage that he claims they did, that Iran cannot have a nuclear program again for the next 30, 40, 50 years, whatever the case may be. How is that not good? Like, that is better than what Bush did in Iraq for 25 years or Afghanistan for 25 years.
No, that's
like,
crazy.
if he really did attack with the intention, attack Iran, if Trump really did attack Iran with the intention that, okay, I'm doing this one attack, one operation, that's it, it's done. I'm not getting involved past any point past this.
If that's the case, then it's good.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I'm sure a lot of people are gonna, like, from the other side, they might retaliate.
Yeah,
You know?
like I said, so therein lies the point. Trump is not Bush. Bush is not Trump. Just because they're Republicans, I don't think we should be putting them in the same boat. And to be honest with you, personally, with what Trump has done with ISIS, especially if you're American, you should be giving him a bit more leeway to deal with the Iranian threat. Because he himself came out in, the second day of the war, when Bibi was going around all the news stations and saying, yep, we're ready for regime change. We're ready for regime change. What did Trump say? Trump came out with a tweet and said, nope, we know where he's hiding, but nope, I'm saying no to killing the Ayatollah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Trump said that. So he's not a warmonger. If he was a warmonger, kill the Ayatollah, you know where he's hiding, kill him, let Iran go into chaos domestically,
Exactly.
move in, take over, right? But Trump didn't do that. He's been having the opportunity to do that. They control Iranian airspace.
Sure.
The Israelis at least control Iranian airspace, right?
Yeah.
So,
I feel like Trump gets a lot of bad rap, actually.
yeah.
Yeah. I
So
feel
we have to step back, because it seems like every measure of violence is bad. Whereas you have to say, like, if Trump, like where Trump was, we have to look back at where Trump was with Iran. And that they were negotiating for 2 months, 60 days, right?
Okay.
They were negotiating. And on
then
day 61, Israel bomb, right?
Yeah.
So you have to look at it like, okay, I'm negotiating with you. You don't want to even entertain my negotiations. You think I'm just all my threats are just empty threats. You think so? Because I've been telling you that if you don't surrender your nuclear weapons and sign the peace talks, I'm gonna attack you.
Okay.
If,
So this is what you think the Iranians are thinking?
if Trump has been saying this to you and you still don't react, don't try
take
to
his word,
negotiate
yeah.
in good faith, he has to do something to show you that he's serious about bombing you, right? If
That's-
not,
that's-
how are you going to take him seriously? How are you going to take anyone seriously? If you and me, okay, we're talking here, okay, and I start talking about your mom, okay, and you tell negatively about your mom, and you tell me stop talking about my mom, I'm going to slap you in the face. You tell me that, okay, but I don't take your threat seriously, and I'm like, yeah, I still talk negatively about your mom and all that. If you don't slap me in the face, I'm going to continue talking negatively about your mom. Betul tak?
Sure.
Right. So, what do you have to do in that situation to stop me from talking negatively about your mom?
I would pray for you.
Honestly, you got to slap me in the face.
Yeah,
Right?
sure. I may even punch you in the
to show me
face.
that
yeah.
you're serious about me wanting me to stop talking about your mom.
Yeah.
Same thing. Same thing. It's a negotiation. This Trump, he's the guy that wrote Art of the Deal.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I pity our producers who would have to beep a lot of this
Sorry, guys.
podcast.
Sorry, guys. I'm getting heated. I'm getting heated.
Uh,
I had some time to think about it. I know
Yeah.
last week I was very anti-Trump.
yeah,
I came off as very
because
anti-Trump.
because last week I
Yeah.
remember talking and then you were saying like, oh, actually I don't agree with what Trump is doing for this, for that, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah, I
really
got caught
coming
up.
from the biggest
I
Trump
got caught up in the
supporter.
narratives. No, I did. I got caught up in narratives. I was like, people like Dave Smith, Joe Rogan, the people that I would say, because the thing with me and Trump, right? Why I support him so much is the culture, the policies, what he stands for.
Okay.
You know, all this freedom of speech. I love all that shit, and that's what I stand for. But I'm not going to. He's not a demigod for me.
Okay.
Trump is not a demigod.
Sure.
Like, if he goes against,
he thinks he's a demigod.
He thinks he is, but if he goes against, and I'm willing to forget about it.
Okay.
If he is someone, I don't see him as a demigod. If he goes against the principles that attracted me to him, I'm not going to be with him anymore. You know, like, he has to maintain the principles. That's what's most important to me.
Okay.
And I think to people like Dave Smith, to people like Joe Rogan, to Candace Owens, you know, these kind of people. And I got caught up in that because I get it from their point of view, because they were worried about this becoming a Bush 3.0 kind of thing.
Sure.
Which, granted, is a threat to become that, but Trump is not Bush. And I forgot about that, and I lost track of that. And I thought about it even more, and I realized, like, look, there has to be, like I told you, different levels to the game. And this game is right now, he's the only one, if you think about it, okay, I told you about how there's so many layers of the game being played right now.
Yeah.
He's the only one that's playing that game on all the levels. On all the layers.
Okay. Because
he has to. You know what I mean?
I get that. I get that.
Netanyahu is not thinking on all multiple ways of it. You know, all multiple layers of it.
Wait, in what sense do you think Trump is handling all layers of it?
He has to handle the military. He's commander-in-chief, right?
Yeah.
In the US. So he has to give final say-so for the military.
Okay.
He has to get, in order to be able to give final say-so, he has to get on-the-ground intelligence. Where does that come from? CIA, spies, NSA, FBI, all that shit, right? So he also has to liaise with the State Department in order to know what is good. State Department is diplomacy.
Yeah.
Right? So he has to know, like, outward diplomacy. He has to know what's going on there. And then he has to liaise with Congress in order to be able to go to war or not. So he's playing the games on so many, the same game, but he's playing it like with 6 different controllers. And he's the only one that can do that because of the position that he holds as the president. I
do agree with some points that you said. I don't agree with the fact that he agrees with freedom of speech. I think...
You don't think so?
I don't think so. He has deported a lot of people, students, and even some Americans who protested against, like, the war in Gaza or the genocide in Gaza. You know, he recently had this is one thing that I do credit him. He allowed, like, protests about him to go on. For example, when he did his military Trump birthday parade kind of thing.
The 250th Army anniversary.
Yeah, the 250th Army anniversary.
Yeah, he did the whole parade,
Yeah, but at the same time, there was a massive protest, the No Kings protest.
Yep.
Yeah, but all of these people were actually protesting against Trump.
Yeah.
But credit to him, he didn't act like a dictator. Yeah, credit to him. Yeah, that, I mean, but that's a low bar, I think. But
it actually is not, because what do all the other dictators do when people protest against them, peacefully or not?
Yeah, that's a low bar.
I don't think it is though. It seems like a low bar because we how do you say? Idealistically, it seems like a low bar, but realistically, in the world today, there's not a low bar.
Okay.
It actually requires a lot of resilience and a lot of patience to let it go. When people are saying bad shit about you, especially if you are someone in that high of an office.
And when everyone is just talking about you. I credit him to that.
And the thing about him is that all of his closest, the people that supported him and who a lot might argue got him elected. The Joe Rogan, Dave Smith, Candace Owens of the world, they were against it, and despite that, he still struck Iran. He still believed in what he had to do in order to end it, and he believes what he believes he had to do to end it.
I understand. Okay, so we actually have time for one more question. Okay. So to simplify everything, I want to ask you, so we've been talking pretty much over the last hour or so about Israel, Iran. So I want to ask you, who won this round? Israel or Iran? Or neither?
America won.
America won.
America won.
Mm.
I would say America won. Like, Trump managed to attack Iran, so he appeased the neocons,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But he also didn't kill anyone with the American strikes.
Mm-hmm.
So he appeased. He, at the very least, didn't do what his biggest detractors wanted. He thought he was gonna do, which was invade Iran. American troops are gonna die. And so at least until now, it's only 12 days in, 13 days in.
Yeah.
But at least until now, he's avoided that. Right?
Okay.
And he's. I'm not saying this is smooth sailing for him. Going to be smooth sailing for him. He's now the one that's navigating the minefield. Because any wrong step, kicks off again.
Yep.
Any wrong step, he could get impeached over this.
Okay.
Trump could get impeached
Yeah.
over this. Especially if enough of the middle leaning Republicans oppose
Are
what he's
against-
doing.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So the Republican majority in Congress is literally like 2 seats, 3 seats. You know? So it's not cut and dry that he gets out of this alive, Trump. It's not cut and dry that he navigates this perfectly. But he has to. He's the only one that can do it because of the office that he holds.
Okay.
So
Spoken like a true Trump supporter.
back. Let's go.
All right. So unfortunately, that's all the time we have left. Can't believe we just spent like 50 minutes talking about Iran, Israel.
Yeah.
Oh, it's some heavy
We can
topics.
spend another 2 hours, guys. If you guys want it, we'll start doing 3-hour podcasts. Dude. I don't care. I
Yeah.
can talk forever.
Yeah. Our producers can do it, you know? Yeah.
They might hate me right now. I don't want to look at them for suggesting that.
But anyways, thank you guys for watching. And if
And
you,
please answer the question that Han posed just now. Who do you think won
Who do you
has
think
won?
won?
Or
Israel
is
or
winning so far?
Yeah.
Israel, Iran, the US, maybe Gaddafi. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where the you guys think it is?
Let us know in the comments.
Yep.
You can send us a DM on whatever you think we should talk about in the future. Can be Israel, Iran.
No pics though, please.
Yes.
No. Please.
Unless it's a good one.
And with that, this is the end of the episode of The Laugh Project.
All right. See you guys
Ciao,
later.
guys.
Bye.
Let's go.